My sister told me the morning of her wedding that she'd hidden something from her husband for 2 years. I almost dropped the bouquet. I'd been up since 4:30. Bobby pins everywhere, the hotel bathroom smelling like hairspray and nerves. My sister standing perfectly still while our mom fastened her dress. She looked extraordinary, calm in a way I didn't understand until later. The venue was an old converted mill on the river. Exposed beams, candlelight, wildflowers stuffed into mason jars. Every seat was filled. Her fiancé Dave was already at the altar looking like a man who had never been more certain of anything in his life. Everything was exactly right, except my sister kept checking her purse. I assumed it was nerves. She'd always been like that before big moments, fidgeting, double-checking, running through invisible checklists. I handed her a glass of water and told her to breathe. She smiled at me, then looked back down at her purse. During the processional, she walked perfectly. Dave literally pressed his hand to his chest when he saw her. Their guests laughed softly. Our mom was already crying. It looked like the wedding everyone imagined it would be. Then, right before the vows, my sister turned to the officiant and said quietly, "I need a minute." He nodded like he'd been warned. He probably had been. My sister reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. The rustling of it was the only sound in the room. She looked at Dave, then at the guests. Then she took a slow breath and started talking. 2 years earlier, before they got engaged, she'd gone to the doctor for what she thought was nothing. Routine blood work. The results came back and they weren't nothing. She had a genetic condition. Manageable, livable, but real. Something that carried implications for having children. She'd told no one. Not our mother, not me, not Dave. She'd spent 2 years researching, consulting specialists, sitting alone in waiting rooms, convincing herself she'd find the right moment, the right words, but the right moment kept not coming, and eventually the wedding was 6 months away, then 3 months, then 3 weeks, and she was standing at the altar, holding a piece of paper with everything she'd been carrying written down in her own handwriting because she'd realized she couldn't actually say it out loud without the words in front of her. Dave had gone completely still. She read the whole thing, the diagnosis, the timelines, the options doctors had given her, the part where she said she'd been terrified he would leave, and that fear had made her into someone who kept secrets, which was the opposite of who she wanted to be for the rest of her life. Her voice only broke once, near the end, when she said she'd understand if he needed time. She folded the paper, looked at him. The entire room was holding its breath. I watched Dave's face cycle through something I don't have the vocabulary to fully describe. Shock first, then something that looked almost like pain, then something quieter. He didn't take the paper from her. He didn't speak right away. For a long moment, he just looked at her. The kind of looking that means someone is making a real decision, not a reflexive one. Then he reached out and took both her hands in his. "I wished you'd told me sooner," he said. His voice was steady. "Not because it changes anything, because you didn't have to carry that alone." My sister started crying in the way people cry when something they've been bracing against finally doesn't hit them. Dave turned to the officiant. "Let's keep going." There was no dramatic applause. A few people were wiping their eyes. Our mother had both hands over her mouth. The photographer had quietly lowered his camera, and I don't think anyone blamed him. They said their vows, regular vows, the ones they'd written together months ago, but they landed differently than they would have 15 minutes earlier. Afterward, during the reception, I found my sister standing alone near the river for a moment, still in her dress, looking at the water. I stood beside her. She said, "I should have told him in a living room somewhere." "Probably," I said. She laughed, just barely. "It worked out though." It did. But what I kept thinking about, driving home that night, was that it worked out not because of the setting or the timing or any of the things she'd agonized over. It worked out because he was exactly who she'd hoped he was.